not come across this live. I would love to hear your guys' opinions. Feel free to comment on this live after the live has ended. The comment section will be open. I have decided to keep the chat closed so that I don't have to moderate it. But you can come back once the live has ended and comment. So this could be quite a controversial idea or opinion that I have been thinking of, and that would be healers, light workers, empaths are secretly, maybe even not so secret, people pleasers. So, and not to say that that's necessarily a bad thing. However, the reason that I'm bringing this to my YouTube channel is because this is something that I have been going through. Most of the things I talk about are things that I have struggled with, things that I'm trying to overcome, and opinions, ideas that I have, inspiration, if you will, to do better. And now I'm not saying that everybody who is a light worker, healer, empath is a people pleaser. However, I have a suspicion that it's more than likely true. So the thing about this is that if you know anything about people pleasing as a attachment, you understand that, at least in my experience, me personally, and people that I've known that literally go into healing business like nursing or being a doctor, and this isn't everybody, okay? This is just an opinion, and it's somewhat of a blanket statement, and it's a theory that I'm working on. A lot of people who go into the medical field are people pleasers. Sometimes they go into that field because they want money, they want to make money. Sometimes they go into that field because they themselves have struggled with health issues or someone that they know. But other times it's because they became people pleasers as a consequence of the way that they grew up. So, and I myself am a recovering people pleaser. I say that not to offend anyone, that I say this to enlighten. I say this from personal experience. I say this because a lot of people walk around unaware of why they do things. And I also talk about Carl Jung all the time, being in touch with your shadow self, being in touch with your subconscious urges and desires. If you're not awakened to the real deep down ugly truth of why you do things, that subconscious drive is going to run your life. Okay, I know a lot of people on YouTube use the term light worker, healer, empath. These are all terms that are used around, and there's not necessarily any kind of scientific theory on what that is. I'm not dismissing any of those terms. I'm simply saying to be careful. If this is something that you resonate with, that you could potentially be somebody who likes to heal people, somebody who believes that you're a light worker, whatever that even means, because it's not a scientific thing, then you might potentially also be a people pleaser. And if that's something that relates to you, then it's time to do the deep work. Because I had to realize myself that other people's validation is what I was seeking. I had to do the deep work, do the deep dive, and really look inside myself. What's the intention behind why I want to be a healer? Why I want to help others? Why I consider myself light worker healer? And I'm talking about myself personally. I can't talk about anybody else who says that they're a light worker or a healer or an empath because I don't know them personally. However, I have met, like I said before, I have met a lot of people who are in the healthcare field, not necessarily spiritual work, but I've also come across a lot of people in the spiritual community who are who have had a history of trauma, have had a history of being people pleasers as a way of surviving different types of abuse or different types of trauma or different types of feelings of alienation. So this is just an idea I'm putting out there for anybody who could be struggling with this, to ask yourself the hard questions, reveal the truths. And it's good to know the intention behind why we do anything. This can be in any kind of relationship that you have. So, for example, if you're in a relationship, a romantic relationship, or a friendship, and you're the type of person who wants to take away, people's suffering, who wants to be nice, be generous, give of your time, give of your energy, and ask yourself the real question. Am I doing this from a place of lack? Am I doing this because I have the expectation to get something in return, whether that be love, whether that be generosity, whether that be attention? So, and I struggle with this myself, as I mentioned before. It's not an insult to anybody. It's not necessarily a bad thing. We're human, we're fallible, we make mistakes. We sometimes do things for our heads in the right place, but maybe we're a little misguided, that the reason we're doing it is because we want this person to like us. We want this person to love us. We want this person to do something for us later, right? So, yes, it can be very, very subconscious. People doing this from a subconscious level. And the subconscious means that they're unaware of what their real needs are. And it can kind of be dangerous, because I had to learn this myself, because I got myself into a lot of sticky situations, thinking that I just want to stay with this person because I can heal them and I will make them feel better. And it's almost a sense of pride or ego that I have any kind of control over what somebody else does, and that I have an expectation that if I do for others, that they'll see me in this kind of light, or that they'll always be there for me. That isn't the way that it works. I had to learn this lesson the hard way. So if you're relating to any of this, you could potentially be maybe have some of these issues yourself, and it is not, I'm not saying that to be rude or offensive. I'm sharing my experience, that it is important, very important, when we do things for people, to not expect anything in return. Don't expect a text, don't expect love, don't expect validation. And that in and of itself will make you it's a protection for you. It's a protection for you, it's a protection for your boundary, and it helps relationships. It helps relationships profoundly, all relationships. So yes, it's just something to think about, when we're doing things for people, to remember to not expect anything at all in return. And that to me is true healing, or true, light worker empath energy right there, is to knowing when to say no because it's going to hurt you, and knowing when to say yes, okay, I can help you, or I can do this for you, not because I expect anything at all, simply because I care about you, I care about humanity, I like to do good things. And so it really will change the way that everybody in the world, if everybody in the world were to be aware of why, you know, on a subconscious level, the things that we don't want to say out loud, why we're doing things for others, that will really help, I think, society as a whole, you know, because humanitarianism and philanthropy and charity and being kind to others and being there for them is amazing. It helps the planet. It helps humanity. So anyways, that's just something that I wanted to share with you guys, and also potentially to look out for with other people who, you know, have these titles or these labels, and deep down they don't realize that they have some unhealed self-worth issues, people pleasing type of ways, because accepting help from other people can also really change the dynamics of a relationship, because we still have these expectations that we're not aware of, and so that we have to, you know, realize what are our expectations, what are our subconscious urges and drives for wanting to do these things. And also with on YouTube, there are a lot of you know, people on YouTube or out there in the world in the spiritual community that exist under the guise of this, you know, label, and it can be very dangerous. So to look out for that and to be aware of why we do things for other people. And I know it really did make my relationships worse, all of my relationships, and it was something that I was consciously unaware of. And even when I was more aware of the fact that, okay, I think maybe I'm doing too much for others, there still was kind of this lack of awareness. Even though I had some awareness of tendencies, there was still a lack of awareness in other places. And this can be also in the workplace, because I know that it is difficult, you know, in the workplace to not be a people pleaser. It's hard to not be a people pleaser in the workplace. And so you got to protect yourself, you got to protect your energy. And it's beautiful to want to help, it's beautiful to want to do all these things, but it's a slippery slope when you're, you know, when there is a lack of boundaries and there's a lack of awareness. And, you know, when we're out here doing things from a place of seeking validation, seeking approval, we're out here doing things to heal wounds within us, which, yes, it can actually help to learn the difference and to be aware and to really ask yourself, is this going to help me? Am I really doing this to help me? Am I doing something to fulfill a wound, an emptiness within me, whatever it is that you're doing? Or am I really wanting to give back? And is giving back, helping, healing, doing for someone, is it going to hurt me in the long run? Especially if am I really expecting validation, love, or anything in return? So, and this is something that I'm practicing as well. And I feel like a lot of people in the spiritual community can really benefit from stopping and asking, why am I doing this? Is it really going to help us both in the long run? What am I expecting out of it? Can I do this without expectation? And it will cause everybody involved less suffering, to learn when and where to offer assistance or guidance. And as far as the empath and people pleaser goes, so once again, all these spiritual ideas, I question all of these archetypes. I'll call them archetypes. Lightworker, guide, healer, empath. I question all of these archetypes as because everything is somewhat of an illusion or a societal construct that humanity has created. And what is it really? You know, is empath a real thing? Do we even really have empath or empathy? Do we really have empathy? Or once again, is it these people are very sensitive and that can cause them to be people pleasers? Because I know what it's like to be sensitive to other people's feelings and energies and thoughts, right? Some of these ideas are very, I don't want to offend anyone, but they're very out there and they're very like metaphysical. They're not grounded in science or anything like that. So it's kind of up in the air. And this is once again an opinion, so I don't want to offend anyone. If you call yourself a light worker, a healer, or empath, there's nothing wrong with that. This is simply my opinion and my experience. So I know what it's like to be, and this idea empath has only existed somewhat recently, and obviously it comes from the word empathy. And so I understand what it's like to be very empathetic and to be very much sensitive to other people's feelings to the point where I don't even know what mine are in the moment, because I'm looking at you, I'm looking at your face, I am feeling what you're feeling, and I'm thinking what you're thinking. So in my opinion, this is what an empath is. It's somebody who's very sensitive to the energies of other people, sensitive to, and a sensitivity is there's nothing wrong with that. It's a superpower to have this. It's like your Marvel superpower to be able to sense someone's energy, to be able to feel their feelings, to be able to know what their thoughts are. And because they're so sensitive, that can sometimes lead to us putting ourselves in the role of the people pleaser, putting ourselves in the role of putting their needs before our own. So, yes, be mindful if you relate to that. A lot of people in the spiritual community who do tarot and things like that have high levels of empathy and sensitivity to energies, and that's why we get into this work in the first place. But it can come a bit of a, how do I want to put this? It can become a stressor to us, to people who practice these crafts and this type of empathy or energy reading, things like that. It can put stress on your mind, body, and soul to not kind of be able to protect one's energy, protect one's sense of empathy, have the boundaries there to be like, nope, I'm sending this energy and these feelings back to you. This isn't how I really feel. This isn't what I'm really thinking. I'm right now feeling somebody else's energy. So, and this is something that this phenomena is especially true with people who channel or people who are clairvoyant and things like that. And it almost becomes, it's like I am now completely harnessing this other person's energy, their thoughts, their feelings, and I have so much empathy to the point where, in order to alleviate my own discomfort, because I don't want them to suffer, I am now putting their needs, wants, feelings, and desires before my own. So, and I'm using myself because I don't want to offend anyone else out there. I'm not saying that you guys all do this or that everybody who says that they're a light worker, healer, empath does that. But I think the probability is very, very high that we stop ourselves and before we do things for anyone else. And I even have an example, a small example, as of late, to where I went out of my way to do something that I didn't really want to do because I knew that it would make someone else feel better. I knew that it would alleviate their stress and anxiety, and therefore would alleviate some of my stress and anxiety because I feel their energy, because I believe in energy entanglement and proximity with energy entanglement, and what that does to the nervous system is really uncomfortable. So, and I'm going to use myself as an example even more so because I don't want to offend anyone. This is just an idea, a theory, something that I'm struggling with, and I would love to know how you guys feel in the comments about all of this. So yes, sometimes I'm going out of my way to put other people's needs before my own because I am so immersed in their energy field that I feel their discomfort, that I feel their stress, that it's almost overwhelmingly so. I know a lot of people don't feel that. Um, you know, maybe some of you guys out there are better at knowing when it's somebody else's energy that you're feeling. It's somebody else's stress. Or maybe you don't have that. As somebody who sometimes channels other people's energies, yes, it can be overwhelming. So, and this is a lot of the times because it affects my nervous system, meaning I'm manifesting their physical attributes in my body, in my spirit, in my soul. And that to me is what this new phenomenon, what an empath really is. And so, and it's almost like extreme empathy. If you guys are curious about this, what I'm talking about, I highly recommend reading the book The Parable of the Sower, because there was an archetype in that book where this person could basically channel other people's energy to the point where if the other person who they're channeling was physically ill, this person had this hypersensitivity to the point where they felt the physical illness themselves within their body. So if you relate to any of this, you can go check that book out, Parable of the Sower, and it's really interesting to me. And I understand in that scenario, which it's, you know, it's a work of fiction, it's not necessarily real, that if you're so entangled with other people's energy like that you are now taking on their physical attributes, their illnesses, or whatever like that, you're going to want to do whatever you can to help alleviate this person's struggles and anxieties so that you're not feeling it yourself. So that's kind of a whole nother different level of, that's almost like mediumship or clairvoyancy or something like that. That's super extreme. But in the less extreme version or role, you know, it's just an underlying of people pleasing and wanting to get validation. And I feel like, to sum it up, that's mostly what a lot of people who are light workers and healers are having a wound that they're trying to heal. And there's nothing wrong with that. This is a good thing. It's just good to be aware of where the boundaries lie and what the intentions are of why you're doing it, and to not expect anything in return when you're doing these things. It's another thing if this is your job, you know, like I'm a healer, I'm a light worker, then your intention is that, you know, you're being paid to offer a service. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's completely fine. So, anyways, yes, I would love to know what your guys' thoughts are on this. Hopefully nobody got offended in me delivering this. I was just, I'm very, very, very curious about if other people experience this as well. And yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Okay, I'm going to get on out of here. See you guys later. I hope this elevated your consciousness.